he's starting.
So I'd like to call a meeting of the Wareham Redevelopment Authority to order. It is 9:05. I see that we have a quorum. I'd like to ask for a roll call. Ken?
Judy Whiteside, Ken Buckland, Dan Butler, we have a quorum. Absent is Derek Sullivan and Ron Bessie.
Okay, thank you, Ken. And Ken, if you could record when Derek or Ron arrive, I'd appreciate that, thank you. And I'd like to take the opportunity too to welcome Annie Hayes. Annie, are you back there?
I'm here.
Annie Hayes is a new intern. She's been trained by WCTV, our local community access television channel, or television studio. Annie is, I think, an aspiring citizen journalist. She will be recording today's meeting for future editing and I think broadcast at WCTV on the government access channel. And Annie, thank you again for that. And we'd like to thank the WCTV board as well. Linda, thank you for all the work you're doing at WCTV to improve citizen and resident awareness and access to what goes on in our local town government. Appreciate it. I see we have quite a few residents present. We also have other media here. Leah, I'd like to introduce Leah to anybody who doesn't know her yet. She's the new editor of Wareham Week. I think she hails from Woonsocket, Rhode Island, is that right, Leah? And she's an aspiring pickleball player, so I noticed. And you're sitting right next to a very good pickleball player. Millie would be happy to give you some lessons, Leah.
Dan, before residents' comments, may I also introduce one other new member to WCTV?
Yes, you may.
Yeah, this is
Appreciate
Jim
that.
Gilbert, and he is our new executive director.
I'm sorry, first name again?
Jim.
Jim.
Gilbert.
Jim, welcome, congratulations.
Yeah, we're looking forward to supporting you any way we can.
Thank you, Jim. And, let's see, one thing I wanted to do too is, this is something that the select board uses to make clear what the purposes are of meetings and the public involvement in meetings. And we are going to have resident comments in just a second. Comments on non-agenda items shall be limited to 2 minutes, and there will be no more than 10 minutes of resident comments per meeting. And based on past practice, the Wareham Redevelopment Authority will not respond or comment to citizen or resident comments. This is a meeting in public, not a public meeting or a hearing. Those will be announced separately. And therefore, no comments on agenda items are entertained from the public during resident comments. So with that, I'd like to move to the next item on the agenda, which is resident comments. And we have some more residents than usual here today. Thank you very, very much for coming. Do we have any resident comments for the WRA? Angie. Angie Dunham. The chair recognizes Angie Dunham.
Thank you. I'm speaking as a resident, not as Historical Commission, Historical Society, or Historic District, or a minor forest, none of the above. I would like to make a comment that out of just concern for transparency for future meetings, for your consideration, if we could have these meetings that involve downtown properties and the projects that are being discussed, if they could be held in the evening when those folks perhaps are not working, or maybe even just find out, you know, what a better time for those folks would be, the people who own properties on Main Street, where this impacts them significantly. Thank you.
Angie, thank you. Appreciate that. Other comments from residents? Ms. Hayes?
I'm in connection with you, Angie. This is why I'm here recording, because of what I've heard from people that they didn't know there was a meeting, including myself, not always up to date on the information in the paper, etc. So I think it's such an important committee that it's good to record it so people have access.
Thank you, Annie. Yeah, and I appreciate the fact that Annie is taking the time and WCTV is making the resources available to record today's meeting and hopefully future meetings, because that will improve, I think, access for the citizenry here in Wareham, the ability to go online, I believe. WCTV also streams the government programming, and it will allow more of our citizens to be aware of what we're trying to work on here at the WRA on behalf of the residents of Wareham. Andy, thank you very much for your comments. Any other resident comments? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to authority business. Item 1 on the agenda, update on the WRA internship program. Mr. Buckland, do you have an update for us?
We have had no applications for interns.
Okay. And for the public, since we are being recorded today, I'd like to point out that the Wareham Redevelopment Authority has established an internship program. We would be paying a generous stipend to an undergraduate student or a graduate student interested in the work of the Redevelopment Authority, urban planning, that sort of work. And we're hopeful that we can get, if not a summer intern, it's getting kind of late in the summer now for a summer internship, but we're looking forward to possibly having an intern or two during the school year. And that's something that Mr. Buckland's office will be managing on behalf of the WRA, and he would be the right guy to talk to right now if you know of anybody that would be interested in one of these internships. And the person who or people that we would select for the internship would be answerable to Mr. Buckland and a member of his staff in the event that we have a good candidate that we can select. So I would ask the public to get the word out to students that you know of who are interested in town government, civic affairs, urban planning, and the work of the Redevelopment Authority. Item 2, update on railroad crossing, boardwalk, and fishing pier in the Merchants Way and Wankinko Wareham River area. Mr. Buckland.
We have 2 grant applications in on this at present to do feasibility studies for the connection and the railroad crossing and the activities that we set up on the water side of the tracks. We'll hear about those probably in a couple of months. In the meantime, we have also been notified of a program by the U.S. Department of Transportation for getting crossings of infrastructure that for transportation infrastructure, and this has something like $3.6 billion available to it, and could be used for putting up fencing or some of the other security measures that are necessary for a secure and safe pedestrian crossing at grade of the railroad tracks.
Who are the grants from?
U.S. Department of Transportation.
And who are they available to?
To municipalities, states.
Why not to the
nonprofits.
railroads? It's their problem.
That'd be a good idea too, if we get them to do it.
And Ken, these feasibility studies, would they look into those funding options or opportunities?
They could. That wasn't necessarily the focus of them. It was to see if it was possible to put in a number of public access amenities on the water side of the tracks.
Okay, thank you.
Because there'll be a number of permit requirements, and we have to know what is going to be required legally to accommodate the public on the water side of the tracks.
Okay, thank you, Ken. You said it'll be a couple of months before we know if we get those grants?
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
How much have you applied for?
Applied for about 200,000 on one grant application and 150 on another.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. And I'd like to note for the minutes that at 9:13, Mr. Sullivan, our town administrator, was able to join us. Derek, thank you.
Thank you. Excuse my being late.
No problem. And Derek, today's meeting is being recorded by WCTV.
Great.
Who's Annie Hayes. Item 3, update on Showcase Wareham finances to include payments to performers and expense reimbursements. And I think I can take this one, Ken. I've spoken to all the performers, they have all received their reimbursement. Thank you, Ken, for pushing that through the system. And I know at least one of the people that put out a lot of money in advance of that event to promote it also received his check for reimbursement, so thank you.
I think we're all covered now. I think we paid everybody out on that one.
Okay, that's good. We can close the books on it. Thank you. Appreciate it. Item 4, update on coastal zone management / resilient Main Street grant application. Mr. Buckland?
We've postponed the second phase grant application on this one until we've resolved what seem to be some significant issues on the proposal that the consultants prepared for us in the grant, in the first phase grant report.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none. Item 5, update on the evolving design and performance guidelines for Wareham Village -1R sub-district. Mr. Buckland?
I think evolving may be not exactly the correct word to use in this case, but design and performance guidelines for the WV1R sub-district have been approved by the planning board and are ready to be applied in the district that was adopted by town meeting, in the last town meeting. I think what we're talking about is testing them out and seeing how they work on actual projects, and seeing if we get the results that we want from it. I think we will, but there may be some tweaking that has to be done to get exactly the public benefits that we're looking for in the projects we see in the downtown district. So there'll probably be some changes that'll come out as a result of the future reviews.
Okay, thank you, Ken. Any other discussion? Okay, item 6, which is related. Ken, could you give us an update on the impact of WV-1R creation and rezoning on real estate, commerce, and housing within the new sub-district? What have we seen so far since the rezoning?
Well, we've seen already interest in the district. We've seen 2 splashy office rentals in the downtown by real estate firms that are competing for business that they feel is going to be taking place in the downtown district. We have a developer who's put down a controlling option on a significant building in the downtown to prepare plans for redevelopment under the WV1R district. We have another developer, local developer, who's preparing plans for creating a restaurant in the downtown, in that sub-district. And we have others fishing around looking for opportunities. So it seems to have had the proper effect at this point. We're going to have to see what the projects look like when they come forward. And that's going to be a couple months in preparation before we see something on paper that is going to be worthwhile reviewing.
Thank you. Any questions for Ken on this item or comment? Okay, hearing none. Item 7.
Sorry, was it? Did you miss out, there was a new real estate company that came downtown and was explicitly listed, the rezoning as one of the reasons they were willing to?
There are 2 real estate companies that came downtown, Jack Conway and
Remax.
Remax.
Okay.
And they both identified the WV1R as one of the reasons why they wanted to move into the district, because there's a little bit of excitement going on there and potential for investment.
That's exciting. It's kind of ground floor stuff.
Yeah, it is. It's what we hoped would happen.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you, Derek. Item 8, update on potential WRA support for a business association initiative to foster development of commerce, community events, and activities designed to improve Wareham, and that's an item that our selectman Ron Bessie is working on, and I'll defer that item to the next agenda for Ron to report out on.
You skipped over number 7.
Oh, I did?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Let's go to item 7. Discussion and possible vote on additional rezoning initiatives, air rights over Merchants Way, and other potential recommendations to the planning board, select board, town meeting. Mr. Buckland.
I have something to hand out here. This is on the urban plan renewal approval process.
Thank you.
Hand that around. These are the steps that are necessary for the urban renewal plan to be officially adopted. First step is that we have to make a declaration of necessity, and that's based on the Slum and Blight study that was done previously, many years ago at this point now.
So that's the redevelopment authority has to do that, or the town?
The redevelopment authority.
Okay.
And then we have to have the public hearing before the planning board and the select board. And all the evidence associated with that goes into the record. And then we have to have the select board approve the urban renewal plan, and the planning board make a determination that the urban renewal plan is based on local survey and conforms to the Wareham master plan. Then we need evidence of the Massachusetts Historical Commission receipt of the public hearing notice. We need certification by the Redevelopment Authority's council that the proposed plan is in compliance with applicable laws. And then we need other supporting documentation, if there have been letters of support or newspaper articles, et cetera, that get put into the record of the approval that we send to the Executive Office of Housing and I forget what the new name of it is. DHCD is now,
ELOC.
yeah, ELOC, whatever it stands for.
EHOLC.
Office of Communities, I guess. But that'll be all filed with them, so that's the exhibits that, and certifications that we need to proceed with at this point.
And Ken, we sent the draft back to Emily at Innes Associates for some adjustments to language and to insert some graphics and to make adjustments that were recommended by the EOC office. Once that new and improved draft comes back to us, would that be the right time for us to evaluate it, do this declaration of necessity, and then move on with the process? Basically decide that we, the WRA, think it's final and ready to go?
I would think so, because I think at that point we're ready to roll on it.
Well, I have a slightly different viewpoint of that. I think we do number 1 first, because we have decided that there is a necessity for the redevelopment. Start the train rolling. Emily's edits, et cetera, come later. We finalize that later, but you have to do the declaration first.
Right,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right.
Yeah, so shouldn't that go on the next agenda?
Yeah,
Or did we do it many meetings ago?
No.
no, we didn't do
We
a
have to do a
declaration of
final,
necessity.
Okay.
We just accepted the report, we didn't actually make a declaration.
Okay. Could we do it now, or?
No,
do
it
you
has
think
to
we
be on
have
your agenda because it's a biggie.
Okay, you don't think it could squeeze in under item
No.
7 on the agenda?
No.
Okay.
No.
Did I hear no? Okay, I'll put that on the agenda for the next meeting, thank you. Thank you, Ken, that's good to know. Thank you.
So we're using the, and I know we're talking about it going, you know, we're sort of chicken and an egg, but the genesis for the declaration is the report that
Right.
we have.
Yes,
And there's just some minor tweaks in that, so we
Correct.
can go with the initial findings from the report?
yes.
Okay.
We had no problems with the findings, they were delivery, or, you know, if you're an English major, you'd like to have it spelled out pretty. I mean, they were, there's nothing substantive in those tweaks.
Okay.
Ken, looking at the timeline then for the urban renewal plan, do you think we'll be ready by the fall town meeting to put this before the voters?
That depends on the public hearings that are necessary before the planning board and the select board. It doesn't actually have to go for town meeting approval.
So yeah,
It's just the select board and the planning board that actually have to make the determination.
okay. And then,
But going before town meeting, that's the air rights
right,
that,
yeah, that's gonna be in the plan. Let's talk about the air rights. Is there anything holding up preparing an article on air rights for the town right now? We don't even need the urban renewal plan to do that, do we?
no, you don't need it. It's the basis for it, but,
And that's a key tenet, I think, in our strategy for WV1R, that we would make air rights available potentially to developers. But there is a process to make sure the town approves of that.
it makes sense if we have the urban renewal plan approved first before we go ahead with implementation of it. We jumped the gun a little bit on the WV1R, but that was because it was prepared and ready to go, and we had developers that were interested in making it happen.
What would you recommend, though, if a developer came forward and said, I love the new zoning except for one thing, if I had air rights, I could do this magnificent project for the town?
Well, we'll have to wait until the town meeting comes around, and we can talk to you about it then.
You tell them it's something that can be done in the future, there's no guarantee it will pass, it's up to the residents of the community.
Right.
Okay.
So it's, you know, I think we need to flow out informationally what that means. You know, there's the concept of air rights, what is the definition, what does it mean? What portions of the Merchant's Way would you be talking about, the whole thing? How would you break it out? What's a potential value of it? I think that's the type of stuff people would wanna know before they would vote on it. You know, it's just a guesstimate on the valuation, because anything that would be done, you can't guarantee it to one developer. It would have to be bid out, and you'd have to follow the disposition of real assets procurement process. So
Okay.
so a developer could come in, but you can't promise them, we can't say anything. It's a conceptual idea.
Okay, so I guess what I'm hearing is we could wait until the urban renewal plan is finalized and then present the air rights to the town. So we're talking 18 months away, it would sound like. Or we could proceed now in trying to do what you just recommended, Derek. Educate the WRA on exactly what we mean by air rights, educate the public on what that means and what that might entail. And then potentially it sounds like there's no reason we can't put it before the voters before the urban renewal plan is complete. That would just have to be an option that we decide is the prudent one.
And there's going to be a lot of questions, right? If the air rights are going out over to the coastal rail or MassDOT, if you will, property, what does that mean for people's views? Okay, well, we will require an upper level boardwalk being built. These are the types of things I think are going to be questions that we get. I think the idea is a brilliant one, but we need to, there's going to be lots of questions, and, you know, people love driving down there. You know, at some point, we know it's going to be fenced off, whether it's via the last tragedy there, or if a true commuter rail comes by, it's going to have to be fencing across there. So there's a lot of different ways to think about this.
Okay,
Remember that the air rights over, what is it, the main artery that goes into the city of Boston, that took like 5 years to get, or maybe even 10, before those air rights were available and then used.
okay.
It's a dicey.
Okay, so it sounds like it's a good thing we're talking about it now.
Yeah. No, I think that's
It's
very
gonna
good.
take quite a while to get this piece of the puzzle into the overall urban redevelopment effort that's underway right now, and that we're undertaking. Ken, would you mind if I put that on the agenda then for the next meeting? We could start that process of educating the WRA on air rights.
Sure.
And the public, and as Derek recommends, start to socialize that idea. And certainly make it available as a potential tool to future developers that they know that we're contemplating this, and that this could be a significant aspect of the urban renewal plan for Wareham Village. Any other discussion on that item?
Can I,
Yes, ma'am.
the issue of a lot of that property being owned by the railroad, to me, begs the question of how far over the parking lot, or whatever it is you wanna call it, can we go adjacent to the railroad? The railroad can do whatever it wants, we know that. But how close can we get, or how close can an entity get to their rights of way? I think we need to ask that question of the railroad too. I hate.
Yeah, based on what I was involved in Winchester, you can be right on the line.
You can?
Yeah, but we'll confirm that with Mass DOT, Railroad Division, as to what their requirements are.
Because I think the Boston ones also crossed a railroad, crossed a railroad.
It did.
Yeah, so I think there's some, I think you need to look at that question, issue, whatever.
Right.
Any other discussion on that item? Okay, hearing none. Item 8, update on potential WRA support for a business association initiative, et cetera. We'll defer that to the next meeting for Mr. Bessie's report. Item 9, Mr. Buckland asked that we put this on the agenda for our deliberation today, discussion and possible vote on a recommendation to the select board regarding disposition of Deacon School property.
I have a question on this. We already made a recommendation. Are you saying it should be changed?
What was the recommendation?
It was to act on what what SERP had put together.
Oh, okay.
So I don't see,
I don't see a reason to do it again then.
okay. You just want to send them a reminder of the last one?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay.
Since I forgot. Maybe they did too.
Yeah.
Okay, and that report, the Serped report, Ken, is that, I recall reading that online. I can't recall if it's on our webpage or,
It is on the SERP one, I know, but we had it on there. If not, we can link to it.
yeah, we should if we don't have it there. Could you do that, Ken, also?
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll
Make
link
sure
it.
that that's on the WRA webpage. It may be there, but I'm not sure how to get to it now.
And Dan, you might not even have been here at that time.
No, I wasn't.
You were just a future dream. So I'm thinking, do you want to go over and just make sure that's still something you're interested in? Or, I think Ron wasn't on at that time as well, maybe not even you, Judy, I don't know. So maybe everybody take a look and see if it's just still something that's, that the WRA is interested in, and is making a recommendation.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. A lot's happened. I don't know when that Serped study came out. Was that 2018
It was a couple of years ago.
or 19? It was pre-COVID, right?
Yes.
It was.
It was PC.
6 or 7 years ago. It was a while ago.
That's probably a good I like that idea, Derek, since that was what the WRA thought 4 years ago, and 4 or 5 years ago, and a lot has changed. I would ask that the WRA members review the SERPED report. And Ken, we'll put that on the next agenda. If you don't mind reprising the report, summarizing it for the group, and making a recommendation. And we can either agree with what we decided 4 or 5 years ago, or decide on a separate course of action.
Yeah, I think it's the, when they did this one, the timeline obviously is no longer apt, because it started talking about winter of '21. So I don't think this was as long ago as we thought. It might have just been in the doldrums of COVID.
It was when Deacon's closed.
Yeah.
It was just when Deacon's was closing.
Gotcha. Yeah, so it wasn't that long ago.
Well, when we knew Deacon's was not going to be a school
Yeah.
anymore. So
Right.
It
That's
goes
what we
back
did.
to a while.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the idea of having Mr. Bessie here as well for that discussion. So Ken, if we can, we'll defer further action on this until our next meeting. And
Yeah, I think one of the things to consider in this is the idea of rezoning the district as well, too.
Oh, okay.
Because that was part of their SERPED report.
Ken, could you do me a favor? Would you craft what you think the agenda item ought to look like for the next meeting, and I'll include that on the agenda, and then
All right.
we'll make that that'll be a central part of the next meeting. Any further discussion on item 9? Hearing none. Item 10, discussion of possible vote on RFPs for urban renewal planning along Cranberry Highway in East Wareham. Mr. Buckle.
The RFP hasn't been issued yet. One of the questions I had on it was how much money we were gonna be putting up for it. Since this isn't a grant that we have available to us on this one. I estimate that to do a vision study and an urban renewal plan would be on the order of 150 to 180,000.
That's a big hit.
Yeah, it is.
So is your recommendation to start seeking grants that we can offset with some of the WRA funds?
Yeah, I don't know what grants are available now for that, but
Yeah.
that would put us off. One of the things we could do is submit the RFP and see what the prices come in at, and then base that on a grant application that we submit later.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
Is there any reason not
do you-
to submit it?
Yeah, I would, I'm just thinking, submitting an RFP for which we don't have technically funding for. Do you want to reach out to a couple different groups with the scope just to get a small idea about
I
it?
guess we could test it out that way instead of putting out an RFP.
Yeah, I just think the amount of work to do the RFP plus the amount of work they have to do for responsiveness, just to hear that we don't have the funds.
Right.
You know, I just don't think that's.
Well, we do
that's
have
proper.
WRA funds, but
Yeah.
we don't want to spend them.
No, you don't wanna spend 25-30% of your available funds with no recurring
Right,
portion
right,
of it.
right, exactly.
So, that, again, that's what I'm saying is, I don't think that's a good way to do business.
Yeah, Ken, going back to what we talked about earlier, the process for the current urban renewal plan that we have in the works, declaration of necessity by the Wareham Redevelopment Authority, would we hold off until we did one of these vision studies and feasibility studies before we did that?
The Sum and Blight study is necessary for the decision, the declaration of necessity.
Okay. So we have several steps to go through before we get to that point. All right. So as I understand it then, based on what Mr. Sullivan just recommended, Ken, you're going to do some informal scoping and investigation in advance with experts in this field to see if you can get a sense of what it would cost to do the vision study, et cetera?
It's an urban renewal plan. We're actually coming up with a vision and an urban renewal plan for the east portion. of Cranberry Highway.
You'll do that? Will that,
And I'll put that together, see what I can find. One of the issues I'm having, because I've made some calls already on this, is trying to find the consultants that are interested in doing it.
okay. Yeah, I don't think we're ready to commit to $150,000 to $180,000 on this project yet, but I'll put that on the next meeting agenda, Ken, if you could just provide us with an update at that time.
Sure.
Thank you. And Ken, that brings us to report from the Director of Planning.
Just wanted to point out that the real estate market is still strong in the region. We still have a lot of activity, still have a lot of private capital being invested, which is great for the town in terms of our ability to make choices and to direct it in certain ways that we want to have where it's most effective. There are a couple of projects that you may be of interest to us. One is that we apparently have the grant funds now for the next phase of the removal of the Parker Mill Dam. So we'll get design of that work and another couple of public meetings as well too. The developer of the developer we had at the Tremont Nail Factory, Bentley, is still in the area, still interested in advancing the project. I have a meeting this afternoon with one of the principals from Bentley to discuss what they're interested in doing in the next period.
You said that meeting's today?
That's today, yeah. They have a project in Bourne that got its approvals, but then fell through with the financing, the backers backing out. So that has swung their attention back over to Wareham. But they'd like to have the dam taken out first before they invest money into the building, because that makes a big difference in the ability to keep it dry inside the building.
Right. I've got a question for you. Once we remove that dam, there may be other master developers that would be interested in the property that weren't interested before.
That's right, we
Are
could
we
reissue the
contractually
RFP.
obligated to Bentley right now?
That's a question. I'd like legal counsel to weigh in on.
Okay.
But there could be some real value that we accrue as a result of taking the dam down.
Okay. And you mentioned a couple of projects. That's one. Did you have another one you're thinking of?
There's the Stone Path Malt continues to expand its business model in town. They're also expanding outside of the state as well too. But apparently we're attractive enough that, and we've set them up well enough that they're continuing to invest in Wareham.
In that same location, in the
Yeah.
industrial park?
Yeah, they're setting up a small brewing operation where, like a test kitchen, where brewers can come in and test out their malt and see how it works. And
They've had the idea to do that, they haven't applied for anything.
no, they haven't.
Right, okay,
That sounds like a neat idea.
yeah. I think the difference between they're setting it up versus that's something that they're thinking about doing is big for people to understand.
Right.
So that, we don't get well, I haven't seen any applications, what's going on,
Right.
Where's
right.
the beer?
Yeah.
All right, Ken, any update on Mr. Warren's property at Bessie Park? I see quite a bit of activity there. It looks like it's coming together nicely.
Yeah, he's trying to rush it to meet the opportunity grant zone, opportunity zone standards or requirements, that he meet a certain deadline, and then he gets the tax breaks. And it's coming out nicely. He's postponing some of the other facilities on the site and just focusing on the event center at this point to get that done on time.
Okay.
And that should be a nice, that's a nice addition to the downtown.
Yeah, has he talked to you at all about a grand opening or some kind of neat event that?
I'm sure he will have an event for opening. He's an event kind of guy.
Okay.
Yeah, the one thing with these is from Town Tavern, what we heard was, you know, small business, but investing in community, not just through, as being a business owner, but being engaged and involved. That's something, Stone Path has been tremendous from fundraising and being part of lots of things. Then you have somebody like Danny Warren. I think one of the things people miss out on is how much small business gives back to the community, and not just through, you know, not just through taxes, if you will, but through supporting local programming and such. So I think one of our mission is, for a little while, we were hearing business is evil, business shouldn't, you know, all business is bad. And I think that's one of the things where it's incumbent on us to move forward, is to explain the benefits of business to a community. So, because I think there's a bunch that just maybe don't think about that, and think of all business as the mega box stores.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thanks, Derek. Anything else, Ken?
No, that's an overview of, I think.
Okay, thank you, Ken. Thanks again for all the work you and your staff are doing for the town and on behalf of the redevelopment authority. Member comments and new initiatives. Ken, anything under that heading that you'd like to talk about?
No,
Okay, Mr. Sullivan.
7 p.m. last night, I played in my first set of pickleball games, Dan. And I will tell you, it was very fun, but whoever designed the scoring system was a mad scientist, and a terrible engineer, and between not trying to drop dead in the heat, I could not figure out the scoring for the life of me. So that would be the only thing, otherwise very fun. And we took 2 out of 3. Against, against some veteran players. They had about 25 years on us, but that was okay.
Yeah, well, the hardest part of the game is the scoring.
Yeah.
But that's great. I'm glad to hear that, Derek. In fact, I think it's becoming very infectious, because Mr. Buckland has contacted a member of the Buzzards Bay Pickleball Association, or Pickleball Club. He's looking for lessons himself. So I think we could get a game going here. Ms. Whiteside. We'll have 4 players here before too long.
Well, not just because it's part of your interest, but I've been noticing a lot of it becomes a snowball effect. The league 3 weeks ago had about 4 teams in it, and now it's got 12.
Wow.
And as pickleballers hear of something, they migrate. And that's one of the things to try and capture, is, if you remember, it's something that's talked about from when you have, big tournaments and such. There's money that follows that as well. So it's interesting to see how you can capture that for our businesses. So.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, you've heard me before. I'm an advocate for what pickleball is, an activity and sport to bring to our community. And, the town is to be commended for the work done to convert one of the tennis courts down at Hammond School into 4 pickleball courts. It draws a crowd every day when the weather's nice. And I think the local businesses benefit from the overflow. I know 2 evenings a week, there's a dink and drink session where people dink and play pickleball for a bit. Then they go to a local establishment for dinner, drinks afterwards, and trash talking, so. I think there's a benefit. I think some communities are seeing that pickleball can attract tourists.
Yeah.
It can attract players from far and wide. I played at an indoor facility in Fairhaven, and they routinely have people from Rhode Island
Yeah.
that are there crowding the courts, so.
No good Rhode Islanders.
There's no such thing.
But thank you again for what you've done to be supportive of the pickleball community here in town. And thank you too for the porta potty you put down in the, down by the courts at Hammond Street.
Yeah, well, for the
It's getting a lot of
basketball, the pickleball, and the tennis, it's good, and we were having problems when it was inside the gate getting access, so now the new location seems to be,
No, it's
seems to
getting
be
cleaned
good and
regularly now.
helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, appreciate that, and I just want to, renew the challenge once you feel proficient with the scoring. Ken and I would like to get out there with you and your partner. Take you on.
See, about 4 or 5 years, so once I figure it out, we'll be right out there.
Okay.
It's interesting, one of the things about, I was reading about Connecticut was reusing old malls, shopping malls for pickleball, indoor pickleball.
Yeah, that's happening all around the country. Malls that are dying otherwise, that
Which,
have anchor
which helps
stores.
with the noise issue as well too, which is
Yeah.
one of the reasons why they closed down some courts in Falmouth.
Right, yeah, I think those are likely to be reopened. I don't know if you saw the Boston Globe today, but I'd recommend you take a look at the editorial in there about pickleball. That recommends pickleball as an activity that towns and cities should encourage and sponsor. Okay, Derek, anything else about pickleball?
No, sir. I survived.
Thank you. Ms. Whiteside?
No, thank you.
Okay, I have nothing new on new initiatives, correspondence. I do have some correspondence that came in. Mr. Slavin was kind enough to refer Ms. Bridget Cunningham to the Redevelopment Authority. She had some questions about our work, and in particular, she was concerned about 307 Main Street. I've drafted a response back to her, and I don't think Derek has a copy. And Derek, I don't expect you to read that. I know you're not a speed reader, so I don't want you to look at that now, but if you look that over, if you have any concerns, let me know. My plan is to launch that out to her as a response from the WRA tomorrow, and reassure her that we have not purchased 307 Main Street, and encouraging her to come to WRA meetings or come to the public engagement meetings that we have scheduled and will be scheduling in the future.
That's the Small Sam's gas station, 307
Yes.
Main?
Right, right by the fire station.
No, we did not purchase that.
No, okay. Correspondence, any other correspondence, Ken?
No correspondence.
Okay. Item 7, approve prior meeting minutes.
Move to approve the minutes of June 22nd, 2023.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Okay, it passes 4-0-0. And anything else before adjournment? Okay, do I have a motion? Can I hear a motion for
So
adjournment?
moved.
Seconded? Anybody?
Second.
All in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
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 Go ahead and vote against it.
Okay, the meeting is officially adjourned, 4-0-0 at 9:54 PM. Thank you, everybody.